Episode 1. The Beginning Line. Istanbul greeted the dawn with a gentle embrace, the first rays of sunlight painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. The Bosphorus shimmered under the early light, its waters reflecting the sprawling silhouette of the city. Seagulls soared above, their cries mingling with the distant sounds of fairy horns and the hum of awakening life. In the heart of Üsküdar, within a quaint neighborhood lined with cobblestone streets and old sycamore trees, 8-year-old Demet stirred from her sleep. Her room was a sanctuary of dreams, a space where imagination took flight. The walls were adorned with posters of famous ballerinas in mid-leap, their ethereal forms captured in time. Delicate tutus of pastel shades hung from a wooden rack, and a pair of well-worn ballet slippers rested by the foot of her bed. As sunlight filtered through the lace curtains, casting intricate patterns across the floor, Demet sat up and stretched her arms wide. A soft smile played on her lips as she felt the warmth of the morning. She slipped out of bed, her feet sinking into the plush rug, and moved towards the full-length mirror that stood in the corner. Gazing at her reflection, she tied her dark hair into a neat bun, just like the dancers she admired. She stood tall, positioning her arms gracefully, and began to move. With each step, she imagined herself on a grand stage, the audience captivated by her performance. The imaginary strains of a violin filled her mind as she leapt and twirled, her movements fluid and expressive. A gentle voice called from the kitchen, interrupting her reverie. "Demet, breakfast is ready. You don't want to be late for school." She paused, catching her breath, and glanced at the clock. Time had slipped away unnoticed. Quickly changing into her school uniform, a crisp white shirt and navy skirt, she grabbed her backpack and made her way to the kitchen. The aroma of freshly brewed Turkish tea and warm bread enveloped her as she entered. Her father sat at the table, his glasses perched on his nose as he read the morning newspaper. Her mother was at the stove, humming softly as she prepared a platter of cheese, olives, and tomatoes. "Good morning," Demet chimed, placing a kiss on her mother's cheek. "Good morning, my love," her mother replied, smiling warmly. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, and I practiced my routine this morning," Demet said, taking her seat at the table. Her father looked up, his eyes twinkling behind his glasses. "Already dancing before breakfast? That's dedication." "I'm performing a solo in the upcoming recital," Demet explained, her excitement bubbling over. "My teacher chose me for a special piece." Her mother exchanged a proud glance with her father. "That's wonderful news. We'll be there to cheer you on." Demet nodded eagerly. "I have rehearsal after school, but I'll be home in time for dinner." Her father sipped his tea thoughtfully. "Just remember to balance your schoolwork with your dancing." "I will," she promised, reaching for a slice of bread. They ate together, the conversation light and filled with laughter. As Demet prepared to leave, her mother handed her a neatly packed lunch. "Have a great day, and good luck with your rehearsal." "Thanks, Mom. Bye, Dad." Stepping outside, Demet breathed in the fresh morning air. The street was coming alive with neighbors greeting each other and children heading to school. She walked with a spring in her step, her mind already drifting to the dance studio. Across the city in Besiktas, 10-year-old Can sat in his bedroom, enveloped in the quiet of early morning. His room was a tapestry of interests. A guitar leaned against one wall, shelves overflowed with books on history, science, and literature, and a football sat by the door, a reminder of his athletic pursuits. The soft glow of a lamp illuminated his focused expression as he pored over a worn copy of Shakespeare's plays. The words captivated him, the complexities of the characters and the eloquence of the language drawing him deeper into the stories. A soft knock preceded his father's entrance. "Canned, breakfast is ready," his father said gently. "You should eat before you head out." Can looked up, momentarily disoriented. "Oh, right. I'll be down in a minute." His father approached, noticing the book in his son's hands. "Shakespeare? That's quite the morning reading." "I find his work fascinating," Ken replied. "The themes are timeless." His father smiled, a mixture of pride and curiosity. "You have a keen mind. Are you still planning to go to football practice today?" Ken hesitated. "Actually, I was thinking of attending the literature club meeting after school. That's a change, his father remarked, raising an eyebrow. You've been committed to football for a while. I know, but I want to explore other interests, Ken explained. There's more I want to learn and experience. His father considered this for a moment. As long as you're following your passions, we're here to support you. Thanks, Dad. Downstairs, the kitchen was filled with the comforting sense of breakfast. His mother greeted him with a warm smile. Morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well? Very well, thanks, Ken replied, taking his seat. They ate together, discussing the day ahead. Ken shared his thoughts on the literature club, and his parents listened attentively, encouraging his curiosity. After breakfast, Ken gathered his things and stepped out into the bustling street. The energy of the city invigorated him as he made his way to school, the sounds of vendors and the chatter of pedestrians creating a lively soundtrack. At school, Demet focused intently during her classes, though her mind often wandered to her upcoming rehearsal. When the final bell rang, she headed straight to the dance studio, her heart light with anticipation. The studio was a spacious room with high ceilings, mirrored walls, and polished wooden floors. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, casting a golden glow. Other dancers were already there, stretching and warming up. Her dance teacher approached with an encouraging smile. Ready to work on your solo? Absolutely, Demet replied. They moved through the choreography, the teacher offering guidance and adjustments. Remember to breathe through your movements, she advised. Let the emotion flow naturally. Demet nodded, focusing on the music and the story she wanted to convey. She danced with renewed passion, each step more confident than the last. Meanwhile, Ken navigated the crowded halls of his school to the library, where the literature club met. The room was filled with shelves of books and a group of students engaged in animated discussion. He found a seat among them, and the club leader welcomed him. Glad you could join us, Ken. Today we're delving into Hamlet. Ken's face lit up. One of my favorites. The conversation flowed effortlessly, with Ken contributing insightful observations. He felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced before. After the meeting, as he was packing his bag, a woman approached him. She was elegantly dressed, with an air of sophistication and a keen gaze. Excuse me, she began. I couldn't help but notice your enthusiasm during the discussion. Thank you, Ken said politely. I really enjoy literature. She extended her hand. I'm Layla, a director at the City Theater. We're holding auditions for a youth production, and I think you might be a good fit. Ken was surprised. I've never acted before. That's quite all right, Layla assured him. Talent often reveals itself in unexpected ways. Would you consider auditioning? He hesitated for a moment. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to try. Excellent. Here's the information, she said, handing him a flyer. I hope to see you there. That evening at home, Demet shared her day with her parents over dinner. My teacher wants me to enter a national dance competition, she announced. Her father's eyebrows rose in surprise. That's quite an opportunity. I think it would be a great experience, Demet added. But it's a big commitment. Her mother reached across the table to squeeze her hand. If it's what you want, we'll support you. Thank you, Demet said, feeling grateful. In Besiktas, Ken sat with his parents in the cozy living room, the scent of his mother's herbal tea filling the air. He recounted his encounter with Layla. Do you think I should audition? He asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. His mother smiled gently. Do you want to? I think so. Acting could be interesting. Then you should go for it, his father encouraged. It's important to pursue your interests. All right, Ken agreed, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The following days were a whirlwind for both of them. Demet immersed herself in rehearsals, pushing herself to perfect every movement. Her teacher provided unwavering support, guiding her through the nuances of the choreography. Trust yourself, the teacher would say. You have the talent. Let it shine. Ken prepared for his audition, studying the script Layla had provided. He practiced in front of the mirror, experimenting with expressions and intonations. His sister teased him playfully, but offered helpful feedback. At the audition, Ken stood on the stage of the Grand Theater. the lights casting a warm glow. Layla sat among the panel, watching attentively. He took a deep breath and began his monologue. As he spoke, he felt the words resonate within him. The nerves melted away, replaced by a sense of purpose. When he finished, there was a moment of silence before Layla smiled. "Well done, Can. We would like to offer you a role." "Really?" he responded, barely containing his surprise. "Yes. Rehearsals start next week." Demet's competition day arrived, the venue bustling with participants from across the country. Backstage was a flurry of costumes and last-minute preparations. Demet warmed up, centering herself amidst the chaos. Her parents found their seats in the auditorium, the grandeur of the hall adding to their anticipation. The lights dimmed as the performances began. When it was Demet's turn, she stepped onto the stage with poise. The music enveloped her, and she moved with grace and emotion. Each gesture told a story, captivating the audience. As she struck her final pose, the crowd erupted into applause. Backstage, her teacher embraced her. "You were magnificent." During the awards ceremony, Demet stood among the other dancers, her heart pounding. When her name was announced as the winner, she felt a rush of elation. Tears filled her eyes as she accepted the trophy, her parents beaming with pride. In the weeks that followed, both Demet and Can found themselves increasingly recognized for their talents. Demet received offers from prestigious dance academies, while Can's performance garnered attention from notable figures in the theater community. One day, they each received an invitation to audition for a new television series, a project that promised to launch their careers to new heights. The auditions were to be held at a prominent production company's headquarters. On the day of the audition, Demet arrived early, her portfolio clutched tightly. The sleek lobby was filled with actors and actresses, all hopeful and slightly anxious. She took a seat, observing the room. Ken entered shortly after, scanning the area for a familiar face but finding none. Spotting an empty seat next to Demet, he approached. "Is this seat taken?" he asked politely. She looked up and smiled. "No, please." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Demet broke the ice. "Have you auditioned here before?" "It's my first time," Ken admitted. "You?" "Same here," she replied. "I'm Demet, by the way." "Ken, nice to meet you." They chatted easily, discovering shared interests and experiences. Both felt an instant connection, a sense of familiarity despite having just met. When their names were called, they wished each other luck. The audition involved reading scenes with potential co-stars. Coincidentally, Demet and Ken were paired together. As they performed the scene, their chemistry was undeniable. The casting directors exchanged impressed glances. After the audition, they reconvened in the lobby. "You were amazing," Demet complimented. "You too," Ken responded. "I felt like we really connected." "Me too," she agreed. Later that day, they both received calls from the production company. They had been selected as the leads. Elated, they met to celebrate at a cafe overlooking the Bosphorus. The sun cast a golden glow over the water as they toasted to their success. "Here's to new beginnings," Demet declared, clinking her glass against his. "To new beginnings," Ken echoed. Their joy was short-lived. The next morning, they received troubling news. Funding for the project had fallen through, and the series was canceled. They met to commiserate, the cafe now seeming less bright. "I can't believe it," Demet sighed. It felt like everything was finally coming together. "I know," Ken agreed. "But maybe this isn't the end." "How do you mean?" "Perhaps we can collaborate on something ourselves," he suggested. "We both have talents and ideas." Demet considered this. "You might be onto something." They began brainstorming, their disappointment transforming into determination. Together, they drafted concepts for a project that combined their passions, dance and theater. In the weeks that followed, they worked tirelessly, enlisting the help of friends and mentors. Their project began to take shape, a contemporary performance piece that told a powerful story through movement and dialogue. Word of their endeavor spread, and interest grew. They secured a venue and set a date for the premiere. On opening night, the theater buzzed with anticipation. Backstage, Demet and Ken prepared, sharing a moment of quiet reflection. "Whatever happens out there," Ken said, "I'm glad we're doing this together." "Me too," Demet replied, squeezing his hand. The performance was a triumph. The audience was moved, giving a standing ovation as the curtain fell. Critics praised their innovation and chemistry. Offers began to pour in: directors, producers, and agents seeking to work with them. They had forged their own path, and the industry had taken notice. As they stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, the lights of Istanbul sparkling below, Demet turned to Ken. "It's amazing how things turned out." "It is," he agreed. "We took a chance, and it paid off." She smiled softly. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Nor I without you," he acknowledged. They gazed out at the horizon, the future stretching before them, filled with possibilities. "What's next for us?" Demet wondered aloud. "Anything we want," Ken replied confidently. "The world is open to us now." She nodded, feeling a sense of excitement and contentment. "Then let's make the most of it." "Together," he affirmed. Their journey had been unexpected, a series of twists and turns that led them to this moment. Through challenges and setbacks, they had found not only success but also a profound connection. As dawn began to break, casting a new light over the city, they felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Note: this story is a work of fiction inspired by the public personas of Demet, Özdemir, and Yaman. Any resemblance to actual events or individuals is coincidental. The narrative is crafted for entertainment purposes, highlighting themes of ambition, resilience, and collaboration.